I just got my money now. 31. 6 hours ago, 31 September, I got my money. It came in. Nah. By the time the clock struck 12 midnight, 1st of October, debit order. Hi man. Medical aid. Car. Bond. Hi man. That's all my money.
I'm gonna try. Work till I die, till I die, till I die. I'm gonna fail and get up, 'cause I'm not giving up on my dream.
Hey beautiful people, welcome back to my channel. I'm Kopano and this is How I Do Things, the show where you send me your questions and I'll let you know how I would do things. Now you can take it as advice or just use this as entertainment. Use it, don't use it, do what you will with it. No pressure, no forcing. I'm just letting you know what I would do if I was on your shoes. Now, life is expensive, guys. Life is actually expensive. Life, you know, they come back in life. Being an adult, a fully functioning adult, is actually an expensive thing. So here's the question. We're talking about saving. We've talked about, black tax. We've talked about lifestyle inflation. Now let's talk about this thing about actually how much are we supposed to be spending on our life? These life expenses that we're talking about, car, house, insurance, medical aid, all of these things. How much are we actually supposed to be spending on these things? And how much can we actually give and save to ourselves, our inner beings? Like if you buy chocolate, how much is my chocolate budget? So today I'm going to break it down for you guys. So I found a breakdown on our lifestyle expenses and how much they are actually supposed to cost percentage wise. How much am I supposed to spend on my car? How much am I supposed to spend on saving? How much am I supposed to spend on my crib? Now, if you have any questions that you want to send to me, head over to my Instagram at Kopano and look for this picture right here. It is in my Insta story highlights. All you have to do is go to my homepage at Kopano and you'll find the little lavender circle that says How I Do Things. Click on it and you'll find this picture. Reply and let me know what question you want me to talk about, whether it is a Chalete Tuesday, a Motivation Monday, or being single, being in a relationship, anything that has to do with us being women, let me know and I'll do a video all about it. But let's just jump straight into this breakdown of how much are we actually supposed to spend on our lives? How much are we supposed to budget for each little section of our life? And is it actually going to work out? Or are we actually spending that much on it? Okay, so I got this breakdown from the Credit Council Society, which is actually an American organization, but I really like how they've broken down this life budgeting thing. So they have a budgeting guideline on how much we're supposed to spend on our lifestyle expenses. I'll leave the link in the description down below. But on a basic one, the biggest ones that I'm seeing is the biggest one should be your house, and then followed by transport and then food. And then the fourth biggest thing is supposed to be debt repayments. And I'm thinking to myself, for many of us, debt repayments is a really huge thing. So I'm going to break it down from the biggest expense to the smallest expense and make an example of a person who earns 20,000 Rand versus a person who's earning 50,000 Rand and how much you're supposed to be spending on these two things. Number one is obviously your house, where you live, your expenses of the roof over your head. So according to this budget, it's supposed to be 35%. And I agree with that. Personally, I used to say 30%. However, if you're including your rates and your taxes, your water and electricity, and your mortgage all into that little bracket, 35% actually makes sense. So if you're earning 50,000 Rand a month, you're only supposed to be spending 17.5 thousand Rand on your housing expenses. And if you're earning 20,000 Rand, you're supposed to spend only 7,000 Rand on your housing expenses. Hold up. I was earning less than 20,000 Rand and I was staying in a 7,500 Rand apartment. Johannesburg is expensive, one. And number two is, 7,000 Rand as a 20,000 Rand earner. Oh my gosh, I've already made this mistake when I was younger. My first apartment that I paid for myself was 7,500 Rand and I was earning less than 20,000 Rand at the time. It was a good apartment. It was close to where I stayed. Transport was slightly more expensive because of the area I stayed in, but also maybe it's because I was just bougie. and I decided to stay in a bougie area, are you making the same mistake? Like, how are you feeling about this number? I've already made this mistake. Right now, I'm within my budget because that apartment taught me that your life, the house that you stay in, should be about 30% of how much you're earning. So if we're talking about 17.5 for a person who earns 50K and 7,000 for a person who's earning 20K, how are you guys doing on this scale? All right, I'm already getting all heated up about this, and we're only on number 2. Transportation is your second biggest cost, and that is between 15 and 20% of how much you earn. Now, this is whether you are doing public transport or you're doing private transport, meaning you have your own car. This is also supposed to include any petrol expenses that you have. Now, if you're earning 50,000 Rand and you're spending between 15 and 20% on your car or transportation costs, that means that you're supposed to be spending between 7,500 or 10,000 Rand. So between 7,500 and 10,000 Rand for your transport expenses if you're earning 50,000 Rand. I'm within this budget. I've always been within this budget. And when I got married to V, we realized I actually don't need a car. This was before this. I used to go around to meetings, and the job that I had required that I had a car. So once that requirement went away, the need for the car wasn't there. Don't have a car at the moment and haven't bought one at the moment because I still don't see the need for it right now. And I think there's a lot of people who are in this situation. And we've spoken about this before. If you're in a relationship and between the two of you guys don't drive that much, you can actually get rid of this cost altogether and save that money. Now imagine, between the two of you, you are earning however much you're earning, and your husband or your boyfriend or whoever you're staying with is earning however much they're earning. If one of you decides that you don't need a car and you decide to save that amount of money, that's 20% of your salary going into your savings and investments. And that's a huge amount of money. For me, I've stuck in this budget. It actually makes sense for me. Let's see how much you'd be spending if you made 20,000 Rand. So if you're earning 20,000 Rand, you're supposed to spend between 3 and 4,000 Rand for your car or your transport expenses. Now, this also actually includes the insurance for this. So the same with housing, the housing expense includes the insurance expense. And if you're driving a car, it includes the insurance. Now, here's the thing. When I was younger, I actually have no clue how much money I was making at the time because I used to work freelance. When I was in my early 20s, I used to do MC events, I used to work freelance, I used to do all of these things, and the money would accumulate. And I think on average, I was making about 15K a month. So at the time, the car that I was driving was definitely out of my budget, but I was still able to pay for it because my parents were paying for where I was staying. So in that case, you can give and take from certain areas. But on average, you need to spend about 15 to 20%. So if you're earning 20,000 Rand, between 3,000 and 4,000 Rand. Now for my South Africans, car insurance is almost double what you're paying for your car. And that's how I felt. When I was paying for my car, my insurance was almost exactly the same amount of payments for my car, which put together made below 4,000 Rand. So the cost of your insurance is very important, and that's why these guys are advertising like crazy. You need car insurance. It is not a negotiable. You do not want to land in a situation where you do not have car insurance and you get into an accident, you bump into someone and you have to pay for it because you're going to be paying out of pocket, and that is just going to decrease your savings. So insurance for your car is non-negotiable. So when it comes to this, are you spending the right amount of money on your car and your insurance? Can you lower your insurance cost? This doesn't mean getting rid of it, because it's a really bad idea to get rid of your insurance cost just so you can save money. Then the third biggest expense is food, and this should be about 10 to 20%. Now, at first I was just like, 10% on groceries. Groceries are expensive. However, if you look at this category and it includes food, so your groceries, personal care, and baby needs. Babies are expensive. I've come to realize that. And personal care, this includes your toiletries, but it also includes your hair and any other grooming things that you are doing. This falls into the food category. And I understand why, because when you do your groceries, if you're doing your own personal care from home, that means that you're doing your own hair, that means that you're doing your own nails, that means that you're shaving your own feet, that you are taking care of your own corns on your legs, that you are taking care of your claws on your feet. if you're the ones to, make your rough feet smooth by yourself at home, it then makes sense for this category. Because if you're earning 50,000 Rand, that means that you're spending between 5 and 10,000 Rand on this category. Sounds like a lot, but when I add it together, right, you're spending about 3,000 Rand on your baby, then you are spending about, another 3,000 Rand on your groceries, and then another 1,000 to 2,000 Rand on your personal care, depending on you. Now, if you are constantly buying new wigs, if you're constantly going and having facials and masks and all of those things, and having your chemical peels and going to an esthetician and leaving it in this category, it then actually makes sense that you're spending about 10,000 Rand on personal care and food. Now, if you're earning 20,000 Rand, you're spending between 1,000 or 2,000 Rand on this category. Actually, you're spending about between 2,000 and 4,000 Rand on this category. It makes sense. If you're adding in your personal care things, that's when it actually makes sense. Groceries itself, I would put it at about 5% of your income, strictly food. But if you're going to add baby and personal care, 10 to 20% actually makes sense. Now I'm gonna stop here, because between your house, your transport, and your food, these three categories are the top 3 things that you'll spend most money on. And putting these things together, you've already spent about 60 to 75% of your income. I just needed to take a moment. It's a lot. I'm already nervous. Let's move on. The next one, number 4, is debt repayment. This excludes mortgage, so whatever you're paying for your house, and this also excludes whatever you're paying on your car, okay? All right, on this category, you're supposed to spend between 5 and 15% on debt repayment. Remember, this is outside of your house, this is outside of your car. This actually does make sense. When I think about it, it actually does make sense. And if I was to budget, this would actually be an amount of money that I would take and put into a separate card where all of my debts go off on that card every single month. That's something that I would actually consider doing, is that I would have an account where all my payments come in, and I'd have a separate account that is specifically just for debt repayment. I would do that for my budgeting sake, for me not to go over, and on top of that, for me not to be under. Because what happens for many of us is that we actually skip some of our payments because we don't have that money. But if I know that on the first of every single month, I am taking all the money that I have for that debt, that 5 to 15%, and I'm putting it in that account and I'm paying it off every month, if I can, I would even put extra just to make sure that I don't skip any of my debt repayments. So let's see how much you'd be earning in the 2 different price brackets. If you're earning 50,000 Rand, you are paying between 2.5 and 7.5 for debt repayment. It actually makes sense to me. I thought I'd be nervous about this, but this actually does make sense. This number makes sense. And if you're earning 20,000 Rand, that means that you're paying between 1,000 and 3,000 Rand. This makes a lot of sense to me. I thought it would make me nervous, but it actually makes sense. What other debts do you have outside of your house and your car? It's your credit card debt, it's your clothing debt, and it's your cell phone if you have your cell phone on contract. This is actually the brackets that you should be working in. So I want you to calculate for yourself. If you are earning in whatever bracket you're earning, and you've already paid for your house and you've already paid for your car, how much are you paying for your other debts? Is it between the 5 to 15% bracket, or is it more? Okay, so now we've taken care of the really important things. Now we're getting down to the extras in life. Category number 5 is personal and discretionary. This makes sense. This is going out, eating out, alcohol, cigarettes, entertainment, personal stuff, extras, the fluff in life, traveling, all of those things. This is about 5 to 10%. Now, when I think about this, if you actually like to travel abroad once or twice a year and you're saving 5 to 10% of your money towards that, you can actually travel. If you were actually to budget like this, I'm starting to think of this budget. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna budget like this. I like this budget. I like it. So if you're earning 50K, you are spending between 2.5 and 5,000 Rand on this discretionary thing. Now, some people who like to drink and eat out and all of those things tend to spend more than this. So if you're the type of person who likes to go out and eat and drink and all of that stuff, put a budget for it. I like what Mapalo says in her book, You're Not Broke, You're Pre-Rich. She actually takes this money out in cash, and she only spends cash on going out, and she puts it in an envelope, and that's for her personal and discretionary or her entertainment budget. And I like that idea. If anything, I would actually put it into a separate account where I know that this card right here is for my personal and entertainment discretionary money. I like this. I can do this. Now, if you're earning 20,000 Rand, you are spending between 500, you're spending between 1,000 and 2,000 Rand for this. Also, again, makes sense. I like this budget. It's starting to make sense to me. I had heart palpitations at the beginning, but the more I get into this, the more this just actually makes sense. Now, you're probably wondering where savings is, and this is where number 6 comes in. So according to these guys, you're supposed to be saving between 10 and 5%. This is where I'm just like, no, it's not enough. It's not enough for me personally. It's not enough. And when I start to think about it, I'm just like, wait, where are my retirement savings? Where are my savings and are my investments? This is an important one. Let's break it down. 5 to 10% of savings on a 50,000 Rand budget. Firstly, we're saving less than what we are spending on our personal and discretionary. For me, savings comes before personal and discretionary. So this is where I disagree with this budget. I would personally save 10 to 15% and then have a 5 to 10% on discretionary. So based on these guys, I would actually swap this around. But let's go with what they say for now. What they're saying is that you should be saving 5 to 10% of your income. And if you're earning 50,000 Rand, that means that you're saving between 2.5 and 5,000 Rand. Too little for me. It's just not going to pan out at the end of my life. It's just not. When I'm thinking about savings and investments, I'm thinking about retirement. And the reason why I'm thinking about retirement, I'm thinking about saving money for my children, and I'm thinking about money that I'm going to spend after I stop working. And this is just not enough for me. This is not enough for anyone. If you're saving this much, please double or triple this amount of money, because this is just, it's not enough. For a person who's earning 20,000 Rand, 5 to 10% is about what? It's 1,000 to 2,000 Rand. It's not enough. This is where I disagree with these guys. This needs to be more, and I need to know, where is my retirement savings? You see, this is where this thing starts to get a bit dodgy for me. I'm not really liking this is where now this budget doesn't make sense to me. Okay, but we're consulting with these guys. I will let you know what I think. Number 7 is your utilities, your clothing, and your medical. According to this budget, your utilities, gas, cell phone, you know what utilities are. That's 5%. Makes sense. Clothing, 3 to 5%. Also makes sense. Medical, 5%. So altogether, medical, clothing, and utilities is about 15% of your income. I think my biggest problem with this one is medical. My medical does not cost for 5% of my income. It costs more. If you're earning 50,000 Rand, you're supposed to be spending 2,500 Rand on your medical. For me, I'm spending above that for my medical. I have a baby and I just have a good medical aid. It is an expensive medical aid. Everybody on this medical aid says it's expensive, but everybody is also happy to pay for this medical aid. Why? Because they pull through every time. They're going to pull through. If they say they're going to pay for that thing, they're going to pay for that thing. People don't complain because all of the major surgeries that you need to do with this medical aid, they pay for it. But it is expensive. It is definitely more than 5% of my income. Ideally, it is supposed to be 5%, but it is not. It is more. If you're earning 20,000 Rand, it means that you're supposed to spend 1,000 Rand on your medical aid. Again, it's not it. It is definitely more. If you are a functioning young adult over the age of 25, you can skim off your parents' medical aid until the age of 25. Find a way, get in there. If it means you study one module at a correspondence place just so you can still be under your parents' medical aid, do it and just skim off your parents' medical aid for as long as you possibly can. But my point, if you are, this is South African terms, if you're a South African person and you're of the age of 25 and above, you're spending about 1,500 to 2,000 Rand on your medical aid individually. And this is for a good medical aid. Don't skim on the things that are important, which is your medical aid, your retirement, and your insurances. You will regret not having your insurances, okay? And you will regret not having medical aid in the times when you need them. This is where my problem is with this budget, is that it does not make enough allowance for retirement and your insurances, as well as your saving and investments. 5 to 10% for that category is far too little. If you ask me, I would make it a 20% of your income. And this is why. So this is my number 8. The one change that I would have with this whole budget is that I would make my savings and investments 20%. So for retirement and in other investments, it should at least be 10%, 10 to 15%. Your retirement is the money that you're going to receive when you stop working. So right now, you're earning 50,000 or 20,000 Rand a month. When you get to the age of 65 and you stop working, you want to be able to still pay for your house and pay for your car and still live the same lifestyle that you're living now. And in order to do that, the money that comes out of your retirement should be able to cover those expenses. And 5% of your income is not going to cut it. So if you were to ask me, how would I budget my lifestyle expenses? It would look something like this. 30 to 35% on housing, 15 to 20% on transport. It would be about 10 to 20% on food and personal care as well as baby. That one makes sense for me. 5 to 15% on debt repayment, the same as what the debt council says, makes sense. 5 to 10% on personal care and discretionary, makes sense, gives you space to travel, gives you space to go out and enjoy yourself. Good price. Savings and investments for me would be 10 to 20%. Very important. Now, you're thinking to yourself, okay, we've already gone past 100%. How do you work this out? If you can save anything on the previous sections, do that. If you can save on your housing, if you can save on your food, if you can save on your discretionary, then you want to add it into this category, which is your savings and investments. This includes retirement and other savings and investments, but does not include your insurances. Your insurance, your house insurance should go into your house costs. Your car insurance should go into your car costs. And every other piece of insurance should go into that. But in your savings and investments, which is 10 to 20%, your life insurance as well as your retirement can go into this category. Everything else you should be saving. And then finally, the last category, which is your utilities, your clothing, and your medical, all together should be making about 15 to 20% as well. So ideally, you do only want to keep it at about, 13 to 15%. But I know realistically that my medical aid is quite expensive, and I don't actually mind paying that if I know that I'm getting the value for it. Now, there are certain things in life that you should not be now cheapo on. It is just not, you should never ever be cheap on those things. Your retirement, your medical aid, and your insurances. Don't ever be cheap on those things. I know we have this whole negative approach to it because we just feel like the people who are brokers are just scammers. And sometimes they really are. But find yourself a really good person that you can speak to who can help you to pay for those things. But when it comes to budgeting, try and budget as much as you possibly can within these brackets, because that just means you're living a really good life. You're able to pay for the things that you want. You're still able to get your expensive hair. You're still able to treat yourself. You're still able to go out with your friends, and you're able to travel while still covering the important bases. Now, let me know what you guys think about this. And if you're living within this budget, I'll actually create something for you guys and leave the link down below so you can go and download it so you can see how your budget is. Let me know if you're sticking to the budget or if it's a bit hard and where you need to increase or decrease to make it happen. But that's all I have for you guys today for this Chaleta Tuesday. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. Let me know how your budgeting goes. Until next time, beautiful people, thank you for joining me. I'm Kopano, and this is How I Do Things.